So we acquired this giant ham here. It's a smoked brown sugar cured ham. And obviously this is more meat than Tim and I can eat in a month or more. And so what I'm doing is I'm going to be doing multiple things with this meat. And the first thing that I'm going to be doing is trying to cut as much of this away from the bone portion as I can. Let me flip this around so you guys can see. Here is our bone area here. So I'm going to try to cut most of this meat away from this bone area, and then I'll show you guys how I'm going to process the different pieces of meat. Okay, so now that I have butchered this ham, and I do mean that as a pun because I am no butcher, obviously, you can tell by looking. What I've done is I've got this bone right here, the big bone that goes through the ham, that I've cut most of the meat off. I didn't get all the meat off, and I did that on purpose because in my last video, I had a bunch of chicken stock left from when I canned chicken stock that I said I was going to make some cabbage soup out of. And so I'm going to use this in that cabbage soup. And this bone is going to go in there and cook down for a while to where I can just scrape all of this meat off of this bone and use that as part of our soup. Then, as you can see, I've got some great big huge chunks of ham. I'm going to do a couple different things with that. Part of it I'm going to chop up into smaller pieces to put in casseroles and scrambled eggs and things like that. And then part of this I'm going to take my meat slicer and I'm going to slice up real thin for ham sandwiches and stuff like that. So give us a few minutes to get this situated, and I'll come back to that. Okay, so this is the ham that I'm ending up with here. It's really thin, if you can see that. I like it that way on sandwiches because I don't like to have to, chew on my ham when I do a sandwich. And I'll show you guys how I ended up with this on this meat slicer. This meat slicer was a gift to me from my daughters one year at Christmas, which is amazing. So I have this blade set on number 2, and that's the thickness of the ham. I could do it all the way up to a 15, which is like a 1/2 inch ham steak or something. I'm not going to do any of that because I already have big ham steaks in the freezer. So this particular ham, I'm using it for several things, but part of it is for lunch meat because I'm tired of buying lunch meat that has all of the nitrates and all of the chemicals in it, and they've put salt water in it to make it last longer. It's just a lot of junk in there that we don't want in our food. This particular ham came from a local pig farm. This is not one of ours. This is one we bought prior to starting with our pig business. And not only can I use this slicer to make ham lunch meat, but I also can use it to slice up chicken. I can use it to slice up beef. I can use it to slice up turkey. So pretty much anything you could slice up into lunch meat size pieces, I can use this. And it's not super hard to take it apart and clean it. This this blade, 3 screws hold it on there, so you just unscrew those, take it off. You can clean and sanitize the whole thing, put the blade back on, and you're done. This piece also pops off so that you can clean all the different pieces. This guard here, it pops off as well and just pops right on there. And this slides, and so you hold this right here to hold your piece of meat down flat so that you can get as much of it under that blade as you can. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how easy this is to slice up with this machine. this kit. I love the guard on this because it keeps my hands safe. I don't have to worry about getting anywhere near that blade. And I probably could be faster with this. I don't know. Let's see if we can speed it up some. Yeah, it's pretty fast. Oops. And all of it is coming out right out the back here. And this is what I'm ending up with. Shaved ham. So I've got about 6 more pieces of meat to slice up on this thing, and then we're going to take all of our scraps and we're going to do something different with those. This is all of the shaved ham that I ended up with for sandwiches and stuff, and I haven't weighed it, but you know, and I really don't care how much it is. I mean, it's just what it is. But I came up with quite a bit. That's going to make a lot of sandwiches. So I'll show you guys how I'm going to package this and save it for long term here in just a minute. So the way I'm packaging this for the freezer, y'all, is I've got a piece of parchment paper here that it's about twice as wide as my Ziploc bag, and I'm just laying slices of meat onto the parchment paper. And one reason I like to lay stuff flat, and I know y'all have seen me do this before on here, is because when I put stuff in the freezer, a flat package will let you put a whole lot more stuff in a smaller space. And when you're trying to preserve food and you've got a homestead and you've got a lot of meat and different things to put in the freezer, you want to try to maximize your space as much as possible. The other reason that I do this is because when I take any of this to thaw out, it's going to thaw out a lot faster if it's in a little flat, compact chunk versus putting it in there in a big blob like that. So this will take no time at all to thaw out. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm taking the other half of this parchment paper. See, I'm going to scooch this down just a little bit. Taking the other half of this parchment paper, and I'm going to fold it over the top like this. And I'm going to fold this end in. And I'm going to fold this end in. And I'll fold this top part over and make like a little pouch with this parchment paper. And the reason I'm doing that is because I've already got a pouch in this Ziploc bag, and I've got it labeled as shaved ham. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide this pouch in on top of this pouch, and that way I can get 2 or 3 pouches of this in one Ziploc bag, and I can take one pouch at a time out of the freezer because they won't be stuck together. So that way, again, it takes up less space in the freezer, it uses less Ziploc bags, and it will come out of there really easily and be able to thaw out quicker. Even if I needed to take this whole bag out at once, I could take all 3 of these pouches and lay them out flat on the countertop, and they would thaw a lot quicker than one big giant pouch would. Okay, so through chopping ham, I ended up with 6 bags of chopped ham to put in the freezer. That was what I had left over after I sliced everything else up, and that will be used for things like omelets, chef salads, casseroles, things like that. Okay, guys, so I have my cabbage soup made, and this is one of those soups that I threw everything in a pot with a kitchen sink kind of thing. It's got cabbage, it's got onions, carrots, celery, garlic, tomatoes, corn, the chicken broth, some tomato puree, And then I've just seasoned it with salt and pepper. And it's actually very, very flavorful. And what I'm going to do is, we had it for dinner last night, and my daughter and her fiance came in from their 3-week stint on driving a truck, and they ate it. And so what I'm doing is I'm just canning what the leftovers are. The meat that I put in this soup was the leftover ham off of that big ham bone that I'd used, and then I also put some cut up smoked sausage in it as well, so it had a little bit extra protein. So what I'm doing is, I've got my big stock pot full of soup here, and the first thing I'm going to do is use this slotted spoon. Show you guys. First thing I'm going to do is use this slotted spoon to go ahead and get some of the ingredients out of this soup and into the jar, because I don't want to end up with a jar that's just full of soup stock. I want to make sure that there is plenty of meat and vegetables in here as well. So I'm going to fill this about 2/3 of the way, I guess, with the soup ingredients. Then I'm going to come back with my handy dandy 4-cup measuring cups that I always use. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do some liquid in here as well. And I'm going to go ahead and fill this up to about a 1-inch headspace, which is right about there. So let's take this off of here, and I'll show you guys. So see, I left about an inch headspace on there, and I've got about 2/3 of the vegetables and meat in there, and then I filled the rest of it up with the broth. So I'm going to go ahead and fill all of these jars, and then I'm going to wipe these rims with the paper towel with the vinegar on it to make sure that the rims are squeaky clean before I put the lids on these. Guys, I ended up with 6 quarts and 1 pint of soup left, which that's going to be at least 6 meals for Tim and I, and maybe more. A quart of soup is enough for us to have for the 2 of us for dinner, and sometimes have enough left over for me for lunch the next day. This pint will be enough for probably one of us, or me twice if I have a grilled cheese or something with it. And so these are quite a few extra meals for us. I'm going to go ahead and get these in the canner so that I can get them processing. Okay, so I have all of my jars of soup in my canner now. I've got my lid on and tightened down around the edges. I'm waiting right now for the steam to come out of the vent. And once it's been venting for about 10 minutes, we'll put our weight on and get started on the processing. So my steam vent has been venting for about 10 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and put my weight on, 10 pounds of pressure on it, and we will let it sit here and run until it gets up to temperature. Okay, y'all, here's our soup out of the pressure canner. And I let the pressure go completely down before I took that lid off. And then I pulled these out of the canner and put them on a quadruple stacked towel. If you try to put it on bare wood like this with it hot, and you let it cool down, it's going to leave marks on your counter. So you want to make sure that you don't do that. And I don't know if you can see this or not, but do you see how that's still boiling inside of the jar? That is very normal during the pressure canning process. So don't freak out if you pull them out and they're still boiling, because the heat that's produced by the pressure canner is a lot higher heat than just if you were boiling water. So these will sit and they will simmer for a little while, and they will need to cool down for 24 hours before you move them or remove the rings. So you need to make absolutely sure that wherever you set these, on the counter, on a table, wherever, that you're going to be able to leave them there for 24 hours without touching them or messing with them. Because you can mess up the seal if you try to move them prior to them getting completely cooled down, which can take up to 24 hours. What I've got to do now is take off the rings, clean up the jars, label them, and then I will put them in our food storage area to have a ready-made meal whenever we want to. So I ended up getting about 40 meals for Tim and I, between the two of us, as far as sandwich meat and chopped up stuff to go in casseroles and soup and everything else that we got out of this ham. So that was a $70 ham, and I ended up getting about 40 meals worth of stuff out of it. So I would say that's definitely a win. Thank you for hanging out with me today while I figured out what to do with all of that ham. And please consider subscribing to our channel if you're enjoying our stuff. I've got some more canning videos coming up next. And of course we have those baby pigs coming. So thanks for watching, guys. Bye.